Peace with everybody. But yeah, man, you see like how everything is basically set up, like how it's been the last I mean, we can go all the way back to 2020, maybe 2019, however you want to look at it. But it really changed after about uh I say about 20. I started to maybe see it around the 2015, 16 range, but it started to drastically change since I say about 2012 or 2001, depending on how far back you want to go. We see it already. It's I do remember, man. We used to be outside all the time, and we would come inside, and then we would deal with stuff like video games and stuff. But now most people are sort of in a video game state already, and it's kind of like the invention of the cell phone, if that make any sense. But yeah, a lot of stuff is really changing, and it's kind of, you can kind of feel what's about to happen basically. A lot of these labor jobs are going away. Um, White collar jobs are gone. A lot of these blue collar jobs, people think that these are going to be like your recession proof jobs, but you got to think, if because I say around 2020, a lot of people was kind of like led as far as like a trend, in a trend sense, to go to like cybersecurity, to go to like trucking and stuff like that. So what people didn't account for was the fact that artificial intelligence, basically we're gonna be in a technocracy. And if we're gonna be in a technocracy, you finna have a bunch of these tech companies. They're gonna be the main source of power. It's not gonna be necessarily your government. The government has our governments have done their large portion, of the mind screwing of the people. But yeah, a lot of what's going on is going to be led by these large corporations, and you start to see it in a lot of these movies. You know, or you start to see like how things are. A lot of these private companies. You have movies like Blade Runner, and you got like Ghost in the Shell. Those are like on the deep end. And then you got like one of the more realistic ones that I could see sort of happening is, that's why I used to play the video game Cyberpunk 2077 a lot, because it basically is giving you one of the most realistic views to look forward to in the future regarding all this stuff, man. So a lot of people were swayed to go into cybersecurity, and swayed to go into like trucking, right? And they were also swayed to do stuff like Uber, DoorDash, remote work. Now, what does all of those jobs have in common? At some point, well, they're trying to eliminate damn near all the jobs, but those jobs I just listed, what they have in common is that it won't be too long before artificial intelligence, automation and all of that start to take over those jobs. You have self-driving trucks that are already out here. I'm talking about semi trucks. We already have the automatic cars that's driving around. I mean, you can see it with Tesla and stuff like that. And then with stuff like cybersecurity, that's just a bunch of stuff on the computer. And it's like when you're dealing with those type of tech jobs and stuff like that, if you're not the top person, because the competition level As you see, because of the cell phone, like I mentioned earlier, the competition level is now at a global state when it comes to like dealing with people. On top of the fact of the competition level of you having to deal with AI, so it was already hard to get those positions back in the day. It's going to be way harder to get them now. And so a lot of people have been kind of hoodwinked to kind of go into these different types of jobs and stuff, right? And here I am, I'm a trailer mechanic. So I do mechanic work on the blue collar side. Um, and my jobs, in a sense, depends on, the transportation industry, regarding, these trucks and stuff like that, semi trucks going across country. The thing with my position is, right, I have to make sure that I kind of specialize myself as much as possible, right? Get into things like the reefers with heating and cooling, or dealing with the AC and stuff like that. Because a lot of these jobs is finna basically go away. So those jobs I mentioned earlier, DoorDash and all that stuff, those jobs are finna get stripped away. Fast food's gonna get stripped away. Warehouse work gonna get stripped away. And so you had people, certain white collar jobs. There's gonna be some sales going away. Maybe some certain administrative jobs going away. What's gonna happen is, after these jobs get taken away, a lot of people have a lot of assets. They've been living this middle class like lifestyle, right? And they're going to be desperate. I mean, we are all desperate, but they are going to be desperate. So a lot of them are going to try to come into the blue collar side, right? They're going to try to get into HVAC. They're going to try to get into plumbing. They are going to try to get into like the electricity work. Some of them are going to try to be diesel mechanics or auto mechanics, or however you want to look at it, and that's going to create an issue because people think that all of the blue collar side is future proof. No, it's not. The thing is, and I don't know everything, but what you can see is, if a heavy amount of people try to come over here, because it's going to be a weed out phase, most are going to realize that, oh, I can't turn a wrench, I don't know how to swing a hammer, I ain't got the physical strength. But then the large amount that do make it, right, it's going to create potentially it's going to potentially create a stagflation within the wage within the wages of these blue collar jobs, basically like stagnating the flow of how things were. Maybe the more experienced people would get a higher pay raise, but I don't know. But yeah, it's going to get to that point, and then it's just gonna be real bad because everybody is not going to be able to make it. I'm not exactly sure if I'll be able to make it regarding my position and what I'm dealing with, because really, if they really wanted to get rid of like auto mechanics, trailer mechanics, diesel mechanics, all you have to do is create the base necessary and to kind of like, program or code the base in a way to where they could work on all of this stuff. But yeah, man, a world coming to a situation where it's similar to like this dark and dystopian like future. It's bad enough for the children that's, well, it might be their normal, the new children that's born and stuff like that. But if you're talking about, because I'm a millennial, if you're talking about the millennials, you're talking about the Gen Zs, millennials, what they call them, Gen Alphas. It's finna get real bad, because It just ain't enough out here. Now, people haven't figured it out yet that the solution is going to be to come together. They've tricked us all into being heavily self-centered within ourselves, right? And in the process, we think that we only have to hustle and do for self to make things work. They've broken up the communities. They've broken up the core structure of all of the families. I don't care if you're a white person or a so-called black person, and I'm talking about in America, if to make it more clear. They've broken up most of the families in this country, and now everybody's struggling, but they don't realize that they need to come together to make it all work. Everybody is still trying to hold on to the little things that they have left. Their house, their apartments, their cars, and all this stuff, because their lifestyle have been used to being middle class. So for so long, the world powers are now giving people the not the option, but they're about to break all of this up. You're either going to be on the wealthy side or you're going to be on the poor side. Basically, you're either going to live in the downtown city-like structured areas, or you're going to be outcast out in the country-like areas, like basically outlawed from the rest of society in a sense. They already have plans to try to get rid of like the suburbs. And if you have plans to get rid of the suburbs, that's just another element as to why they're trying to get rid of the middle class. That's why the middle class, the so-called middle class people are struggling the most. If you're a small business and stuff like that, it may be some of you small businesses that's doing quite well, but there's a large majority that is struggling. And it ain't just small businesses, it's the middle-sized businesses, such as companies like Kmart and Big Lots, and it's a few others that I can't think of right now. They have basically thrown in the towel, or or low-key probably was bought out or merged with a larger corporation. So it's like, if you're not Amazon, if you're not Walmart or anything like that, you're basically screwed. And you see how Walmart operates, right? They come into your town. We love the convenience of Walmart, granted, but it sucks the rest of the brick and mortar middle class stores dry, and they have to do what? They have to close down. And we have been a part of this particular problem. So we have to be a part of like the solution, if that make any sense. Because like I say, we're going into a technocracy where the powers are going to be ran by these tech corporations, or large corporations in a sense. They're going to be privatized, and they're going to have their own little privatized armies and militaries and things like that. It's finna get bad. I've told a few people about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that it's getting to this particular point. And here I am, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how am I going to get through this situation, and not just me, but the people around me. But yeah, it's getting pretty dark pretty soon. We're going to see certain companies take over to a point where they're going to basically, because for these rich companies or wealthy, super wealthy companies, they don't care about the money like people think. We care about the money. They care about controlling most of the market share. If they can get the market share, then it's game over. The money doesn't matter no more, because the money will always continue to come back. It will always continue to circulate into these large companies. And yeah, it's just gonna get worse and worse. would like to see better out here, but it might just have to get a lot worse, and I'm not fully prepared for it. But my mind is mentally already to the point to where if these series of events were to happen, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked. Uh, you know, it wouldn't amaze me in any way, shape, or form. What I would have to do is sort of like be a sort of like a mentor or a leader for those who failed to take it seriously regarding, putting it in their minds upstairs. But yeah, they've already descended a bunch of people mentally, made people degenerates, made people self-centered and large onto their ego. They've already put people into a position of where they're heavily densed inside. They don't have any light. They're dim. And a lot of people is finna, like I said, once again, a lot of people is just gonna struggle. It is what it is. It is what it is. But part of it's the world power's fault, or their script of how they want it. And a lot of it is our fault for being ignorant, to not wanting to seek knowledge or to get that particular information needed to try to thrive out here. But it is what it is. Peace.